As America continues its summer fun water slide into the apocalypse, it's easy to put all the blame on President Trump, mostly because it is his fault. But if there's one small comfort, it's the fact that even Fox News is starting to roast his ass.
Incidentally, I took the test too when I heard that you passed it.
Yeah, how did you do it?
Well, it's not the hardest test.
No, but
there's a picture and it says, what's that? And it's an elephant.
No.
Mr. President, you'll be happy to know that Fox News has a new poll out today, and you're going to be the very first person to hear about it. In the national horse race, Joe Biden leads you by 8 points.
Wallace then pulled out a basketball and shattered the backboard while dunking over Trump. In the interview, Wallace also confronted the president with data showing the U.S. was ranked 7th in COVID-19 mortality rates at the time. It was bleak. At this point, controlling coronavirus in the U.S. feels like a terrible game of whack-a-mole. Only instead of winning a spider ring, you're trying to not die and win a spider ring. Part of the reason our pandemic response feels like a game of chance is because the Trump administration has left it up to individual states.
They put the ultimate decision on when to reopen in the hands of the state's governors. And many of the governors say they need help from the federal government to institute widespread testing in our country, something we now do not have.
Well, some say the reason for the president's hands-off approach is that he's completely inept. Other, more beautiful people say it's because accepting any sort of responsibility could hurt his election chances. The Trump administration has made only sparing use of the Defense Production Act, leaving frontline workers still in dire need of PPE. Their lack of leadership has resulted in a jumble of state pandemic policies that fit together about as well as a pre-owned IKEA bed.
We ran an experiment over the last 4 months where we looked at how states, state by state, could manage this crisis, and they can't do it. They can't do it individually. And what we see is governors making different decisions about reopening and closing that have led us to this point.
Come on, governors, you gotta pull together and work as a team to win this thing. Quack, 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 quack. Oh, who am I kidding? We're never gonna Mighty Ducks our way out of this. Given that cash-strapped states are responsible for creating their own testing strategies, contact tracing, and mask mandates, most Americans' only hope is to have a governor who didn't get to skip their high school science classes for God reasons. So let's check in on how the governors are doing the pandemic their way. This is Deniers, Dimwits, and Lies, Governor's Edition. First, we go deep in the bowels of Texas, where everything's bigger, including their hospitalization rate. That's thanks to Governor Greg Abbott, who confused everyone by issuing a stay-at-home order that he said did not amount to a stay-at-home order before clarifying the next day that it did. He later added, "One of us always tells the truth and one of us always lies." Abbott has been mixing his messaging since March when he said local officials who thought the state was being too lax in its safety measures could apply stricter ones as they saw fit. But when those local officials threatened fines for ignoring mask rules, Abbott undermined them, insisting that simply recommending masks is enough. I mean, you can't expect people to just wear something because you recommend it. I've recommended that every guy I've ever slept with dress up like Smokey the Bear, and they've all refused, except for Gordon. But then Gordon started to blur the line between Smokey World and Gordon World, and I had to move on. I'm just kidding, I'm a virgin. Abbott didn't issue a statewide mask order until the virus had infected 175,000 Texans. It's insane that it took that long, but at least Texans eventually gave in to reality, unlike some other states. Speaking of which, let's see what's happening as of late in the Sunshine State.
Tonight, Florida shatters the record for the most new daily cases of any state throughout the pandemic, more than 15,000.
56 hospitals in Florida are at their ICU capacity.
DeSantis, while encouraging mask wearing, has issued no statewide mandate on masks in Florida.
Ultimately, we've got to trust people to make good decisions.
If Floridians were capable of making good decisions, they wouldn't live in Florida. You've got to hand it to DeSantis, though, for pulling a George W. by declaring mission accomplished 2 months before everything in his state went to shit.
You got a lot of people in your profession who waxed poetically for weeks and weeks about how Florida was going to be just like New York. Well, hell, we're 8 weeks away from that, and it hasn't happened. I was the #1 landing spot from tens of thousands of people leaving the #1 hot zone in the world to come to my state.
It's true. DeSantis was the #1 landing spot, and he had his landing strip waxed accordingly. From April to July, daily new cases in Florida increased roughly 1,200%. 1,200%. The only thing in Florida that should rise 1,200%, honestly, is the ocean. It's time to wash it all away. If you liked this video, hit subscribe and let me know in the comments below. And if you didn't like this video, I'm sure you've already left a comment. Thank you so much.